Yes. Okay, so the thing is that Wuthering Heights, see, the entire novel is, we can say that it progresses in 3 stages. Okay, the first stage ends when Heathcliff leaves the Wuthering Heights and he vanishes somewhere. The readers don't know that where he goes, but he vanishes somewhere. That is the end of the first stage. And then there is a second stage where where Catherine, who is married to Edgar, she gives birth to a female child who is also named Catherine, and she also dies. So that ends the second stage. And then the third stage, finally, the third stage is about the third generation. Okay, son of Edgar, son of Heathcliff, and daughter of Edgar and Catherine. Okay, and then finally Heathcliff also dies, and this love leads to spirituality, where they both meet after death. Okay, so these are the 3 stages in which the entire novel takes place. And you will find the action of the novel in the first stage is mostly in Heights, that is Wuthering Heights. And in the second stage, it is basically in Thrushcross Grange. And in the third stage, it is partly in Heights and Grange. Okay, so this is the action. These are the stages in which the action takes place and the stages in which the novel progresses. Okay, now let me tell you the summary of the novel. See, the novel begins and see, yes, before that, I would also like to add that it is the novel begins with a narration by a tenant, Mr. Lockwood. Okay, and then it is also, and there are 2 narrators, Nellie Dean, who is the housekeeper of Heights, and then Thrushcross Grange. So these 2 persons are the narrators of the novel. And novel begins when Mr. Lockwood visits Wuthering Heights and he meets Mr. Heathcliff. Okay, and then he wants to know the history of the Heights, and then the entire novel takes place in the flashback. Okay, and then we are told about how Heathcliff is introduced in the Earnshaw family, and when Mr. Earnshaw brings in an abandoned child, Heathcliff, into the family, but the family doesn't like him. Okay, because he himself has 2 children, Hindley and Catherine, and both instantly dislike Heathcliff. Why? Because he is a gypsy type of a boy and he is dark complexion, and here the racism is also portrayed, because they are white and they do not like Heathcliff. Okay, and so what happens as the story progresses, you will find that eventually Catherine and Heathcliff, they start building a relationship, but Hindley has an intense hatred for Heathcliff, and which later on Heathcliff develops an intense hatred for Hindley, okay, son of Mr. Earnshaw. So this is how it progresses, and gradually Heathcliff develops a soft corner for Catherine, and Catherine also starts loving Heathcliff. But the only problem is that Heathcliff is not liked by Hindley, and when Mr. Earnshaw dies, leaving behind Hindley and Catherine, so Hindley becomes the owner of the house, and he totally takes revenge on Heathcliff. Because he hates Heathcliff, and so he totally dislikes him, and he takes revenge on Heathcliff by just treating him like a servant. And then finally what happens, one day both Heathcliff and Catherine, they visit Grange, and there Lintons are introduced to us. And then what happens, Catherine falls sick, and then she has to stay in Grange for about 2 weeks, and Heathcliff returns back. When Catherine recovers and she also returns back, what happens that there is a twist in the story. There is a change of feeling, because Edgar Linton starts falling for Catherine, and she also, because Edgar is a very refined person, gentleman, so Catherine also starts developing a soft corner for Edgar Linton. In the meanwhile, Heathcliff notices these changes and he is unhappy. He doesn't want this to develop because he is passionately in love with Catherine. But in fact, Catherine too is in love with Heathcliff, but she admits this in front of Nellie Dean, that she loves Heathcliff, but she will not marry him because he is not a gentleman. He is untamed. Okay, and that is why she decides to marry Edgar Linton. So what happens one day on a very stormy night, Heathcliff just storms out of the house, and nobody knows where he goes. Okay, so what happens that the readers are also in awe and in strangeness that where did the central character of the story vanish. But you will find that he goes, and then he has this, his heart is full of revenge. Okay, because he loses the love of his life to Edgar Linton, and he is ill-treated throughout his life and his stay in Heights. So he is very much his condition. That is the reason we readers sympathize with him, even though he is not, he at the later stage you will find that his cruelty reaches to its prime. But still the readers are so very sympathetic towards him because he loses the love of his life. He is ill-treated and he has to leave the place where he takes shelter. And then this is where the first stage of the story ends, and Heathcliff leaves the Heights, and then he returns after about a period of 3 years. And on his return, he finds that Catherine is married to Edgar Linton, which is because he wanted that bliss to be present in his life and it is not there. So he is full of revenge. He wants to take revenge on Hindley because Hindley has ill-treated him. And when he returns, he finds that Hindley's wife is also no more, and Hindley has a son named Hayton. And so what does he do? Because Hindley is more into drinking and in gambling, so he takes that as an advantage, and he encourages Hindley to gamble and to drink so that he can take the property of Heights. And in fact, he wants to become the master of Heights, which he becomes. Eventually he becomes, and he then ill-treats Hayton as he was ill-treated by Hindley. Are you following, Hiral? Okay, so that is the scene. And then what happens? He finally he goes to Thrushcross Grange to meet Catherine after so many years, and then he finds Nellie Dean there. He asks her to convey the message to Catherine that he has come to meet her, and Catherine is eventually delighted. But because she is married to Edgar, she has to follow her limitations. And then we find that Edgar's sister Isabella is attracted to Heathcliff, and Heathcliff comes to know about it, and he doesn't love Isabella, but he wants to take revenge on Edgar also, because Edgar married Catherine. So that is why we can call this novel as a revenge novel. Okay, this novel, because everywhere you will find that the central character of the novel, Heathcliff, is trying to take revenge on Hindley, on Edgar, and even the next generation, on his daughter and his son, which he has from Isabella. Okay, so that is what the case. That is why when Isabella is attracted towards him, she is infatuated, and she doesn't know that this isn't true love, and she falls for him. And Heathcliff takes the advantage. Okay, Catherine understands this and she tries to talk to Heathcliff regarding this development. But Heathcliff is not ready to listen to Catherine. And in fact, Edgar also overhears their conversation, and he drops in between. And then there is an exchange of violence between both of them, Edgar and Heathcliff. And that scene is so pathetic for Catherine that she faints and she becomes seriously ill. Okay, and then Heathcliff, in the meantime, Heathcliff takes the advantage of Catherine's illness. He secretly marries Isabella and brings her to Heights, okay, to stay with him. And when Catherine is recovering, every single day Heathcliff tries to meet her, but that is not possible. He is not able to go to her room. So what happens? Then one day when Edgar goes to church, and that day Heathcliff finally gets an opportunity to meet Catherine. And when Catherine sees Heathcliff, she is so much overridden by emotional turmoil that she again falls seriously sick, and she is not able to recover. And finally she dies, giving birth to a female child who is also named as Catherine. So this, up till here, we see that the second stage, the advancement of the second stage. Okay. And then what happens after she dies? Heathcliff is staying in Heights, and there with Isabella, they have a son named Linton. And then we find that Isabella also dies. And Edgar is, because he loses Catherine, so he was also so much in love with Catherine, so he is also not keeping in good health. Everywhere, see, the theme of the novel is love and hatred and jealousy and a lot of revenge. And there is also sub theme where this health issue is also there, because you will find that the characters are not so mentally strong and not so physically strong. Okay, so Isabella also dies, leaving a son named Linton. And here Edgar is also not keeping in good health. So Heathcliff is in his prime of revenge. He is not satisfied with the revenge he has taken, because Hindley also dies. After Catherine dies, we will find that Hindley also dies. So still Heathcliff doesn't feel that his revenge is over, because he carries that revenge to the next generation. And he ill-treats Hindley's son. He does not give him education or proper food or proper treatment, not mentally and physically. So Edgar is totally a neglected child. And his own son Linton is also suffering from TB. Okay, in those days it was known as consumption. So he is also suffering from TB, and he is also not keeping well. Heathcliff, on the other hand, has decided he is thinking of something else. He has even more dreaded plans, like he wanted Edgar's and Catherine's daughter, Catherine, to be married to his son Linton, so that he can take the property of, he can consume the property of Grange also. So he does that. Eventually he pushes Catherine, because Catherine's daughter, Catherine, is a very soft personality. You will find that she is very soft, and she is very considerate. So she is considerate about Linton's health, which Heathcliff tries to manipulate and change it into love. He eventually makes Heathcliff and Nellie as a captive in Heights, and then he forcefully marries Linton and Catherine's daughter, Catherine, to both. Okay, just a second.